Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So my classic album inspection today is Dio's Sacred Heart. It was released the 12th of August 1985. It's 40 years old today. So this came out at a time when I was kind of first really getting back into music, listening to music and listening to metal after a couple of years gap when I was riding my BMX and things like that. And I just got back into playing guitar. So I discovered the first two Dio albums from my brother who had those, and I'd already heard the Holy Diver single and really loved the B-side Evil Eyes, actually going back to 1983 when that came out. I sort of distinctly remember playing that song at the first house I lived in with Mood House, since then my family. So that's a bit of background to it. So this was probably highly anticipated by fans. And the album did well. Just looking here, it charted in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 countries. Pretty good for a metal album back then. Number 4 in the UK, number 29 in the Billboard chart, going gold. Now, of course, people will be aware that Holy Diver went platinum, eventually double platinum, and The Last in Line went platinum. So this was a tail down. So people will be aware there's quite a lot of sort of turmoil around this album. Dio had split up with his wife for a time, Wendy, and his manager, and that put him in a very dark mood. And Dio had promised the band that it would be kind of equal share thing when the band started out by the time of the third album. This didn't come to pass, and this drove a wedge between him and Vivian Campbell. This had been kind of growing. It's difficult. I'm not sure what I think about this business thing. I think it's poor business practice to promise something and not deliver on it. One of the issues of the music business is people, I think, fans don't totally realise sometimes that when people are in a band together, the second they sign contracts, the second they start doing things like that, then they're in a business. They have a business partners in a band. But with the Dio band, it was Ronnie Dio who had the solo album deal. The contract was for him. The band were on a wage. In all fairness to Ronnie and Wendy, they they put a lot of money in, seed money, to go out and audition the band and write the songs and demo them. This is the other thing people don't realise. If you don't have an advance, you are moneyless. So bands like in Dio's situation, he had the deal, but he didn't have anything to deliver yet, I don't think. So like I say, they were financially stretched there. Obviously, Holy Diver will have done well. Last in Line would have done well, but by the time the Last in Line album that's got quite an expensive video. I mean, there's a really stupid video for the Rainbow in the Dark, which probably costs next to now. Holy Diver's a bit more expensive, but that Last in Line video, that's not as cheap. When it came to this album, that Rock and Roll Children video, if you've seen it, which is really stupid, but it's a lot of fun, isn't cheap either. Then they had the big stage set, especially the Last in Line, and then the stage set, it got even bigger. For this album, it was the Dragon stage set, and Vivian Campbell only did some of the tour. So, what the finances were like, I don't know. But anyway, that's what happened. So, what's this album like? I'll be honest with you, when it came out at the time, yeah, I quite liked it. Whenever you get like a new album comes your way, you put it on and there's things you enjoy. And then after a short period of time, I never really went back to it. It was kind of the same with the Dream Evil album, and I kind of stepped away. It was only kind of more in the last 10, 15 years I've listened again. I would say, personally, I like the Holy Diver and the Last in Line albums more than I ever did. Always liked them, but I just think they're really great records. Holy Diver in particular. This feels to me like it's short of ideas. It's that thing where bands are in that thing where they're under pressure to put an album out every year. I mean, if I just look at the dates, Last in Line, July the 2nd, so only 13 months gap. Holy Diver, May, so a little bit more of a gap. So it's very, it's not a long time. But the advantage for bands back then was albums were short. This only has 9 tracks, it's 38 minutes, so bands didn't have to deliver as many songs. But I feel what the Last in Line album does, it follows the formula of Holy Diver, and you can get away with that once. If you look at Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, that they sort of follow the same formula. Dio was used to that, I suppose. So, Last in Line's kind of like the Holy Diver track. We Rock's like or I Speed at Night, I like the Stand Up and Shout track. Mystery is the kind of commercial Rainbow in the Dark track, and so on. On this album, opens with King of Rock and Roll. This has live screaming on it. Whether they've recorded it in the studio live and then put screams on. I haven't gone out and played it live, I don't think. I like this track. It's got a really cool riff, a high energy. I'd probably prefer if it was kind of more sharper mix. But it's got a really good pre-chorus. And it's a good opener. It's not as good as something like We Rock or Stand Up and Shout, but it is good. 3 minutes 49. Next you get this title track. This is Sacred Heart, obviously. This is the sort of epic track. It's got a little keyboard intro a la Holy Diver, mimicking a bit Last in Line or Egypt, I suppose. I like this track. It's got a boom, boom, quarter note bass thing, which is a Dio Jimmy Bain trademark. Again, it's just not as good as those tracks. I like listening to it. In a different situation, a different time, this might be a more key Dio track. I know it's got its fans. I do like it. Now you've got Another Lie. This has got a really good riff on it. It's got quite a slinky, sexy riff from Viv Campbell. This is just written by Dio, actually, so quite interesting. I guess he's come up with the riff. I'm saying Vivian Campbell's interpreted it. So, yeah, I quite like this track. And then you've got Rock and Roll Children, which I think, for me, is the standout cut on the album, because this is the one track that's kind of growing the Dio sound in a more commercial way. Yes, it's got that keyboard line like Wistery, like Realm of the Dark, but the kind of riff's slightly different, the arrangement's slightly different. It's got a little more of an AOR melodic rock feel, and it's all the better for that. So side one is pretty strong on this, and then the next one, side two, opens with Hungry for Heaven, which is another one of the commercial tracks. And again, Dio Bain, right, this is only 4 minutes 10. I like this track. It's a good track. So, looking at it, you've had quite a pretty decent run. I think it's after that it starts to kind of fall into kind of, what does that track go like? You've got Like the Beat of a Heart. This is another bang, 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 bang. It's, what's the track called? The one on Holy Diver, sorry, the fucking amazing one. Straight Through the Heart. And then you've got As It Eat Your Heart Out. Different feel on that, but it's like that same title, that same kind of thing coming at the same point. And there's nothing wrong with the track. It would be an okay kind of filler track. Or on, like, say, Holy Diver, you've got had 8 great tracks in this track, it would work okay, but it doesn't feel, it feels like the album still needs something stronger. Just Another Day, this is kind of a more commercial track. It's got a kind of a galloping, more majory type riff, which is quite interesting. But again, I don't think it's particularly memorable. 3 minutes 23. Again, it's an up-tempo number. Like not like a Speed at Night or Evil Eye, but it's trying to bring that vibe. It's Dio Campbell composition. There's nothing really wrong with it. It just doesn't stand out. Then you've got Fallen Angels, band's rights. This is 3 minutes 57. Now this has got quite a bit more of an interesting. It's got kind of more of a sexy riff, like Another Lie. I think Viv kind of tracks in a higher octave guitar part on this, and it makes it quite interesting. So I would say this is the better track of the last bit of side two. And then you've got Shoot Shoot at the end, which is another sort of ploddy commercial rocker. It's okay. 4 minutes and 20. I think one of the things with this is they did a track called Hide in the Rainbow, which was on the Iron Eagle soundtrack, and this track is the missing thing. The album would really benefit from this track. It's 356. If they'd put that on the album, the album still would have only been 42. How long is it again? Sorry, 38, 50. 42, 50, 42, 40. So it's still would have been a good level. Or maybe even better, if you want to keep the 9 tracks, which is the formula established at that point, just lose a track. I would probably lose Like the Beat of a Heart, I think. Maybe I'd lose Just Another Day. Hide in the Rain was a really good track, and it's a cool Dio lyric. There's also a track Time to Burn off Intermission, which is a live album, and again, maybe that was around the time. That's possibly more interesting, but it's written by Craig Goldie, so it's obviously come later. I think another problem with this is Dio's lyrics feel a little tired. It feels like he's covering the same sort of things. I think he's probably quite run down by this point, in all fairness. You know, he must have worked bloody hard since the back end of 82, early 83. So sometimes the titles, King of Rock and Roll Children, is the same thing. Another Light, Just Another Day is another in both titles. Fallen Angels, you're right, Heat Bomb Shoot Shoot was a classic UFO song. Like the Beat of a Heart, you know, Straight Through the Heart. Eat Your Heart Out, you know. Sacred Heart's a cool title. Hungry for Heaven, they're good, but it's just adding to that sort of thing that the tracks aren't standing out as much. I don't like the production as much. I think it's a bit woollier, this, particularly Viv Campbell's lead sound. And then that's the other thing to kind of lay the door at. Viv Campbell's clearly, his heart's not in it. His solos, they're good, but there's no great solos to me on this. There's no Last in Line, anything to match Last in Line, Holy Devil, We Rock, you know, Evil Eyes, you know, those types of solos that really burst out of the speakers. So that's another issue, and he's, like I say, his lead guitar sound just seems especially woolly to me. People might disagree with this. I'm sure there's people who got this album at the time and loved it, or maybe it was the first Dio album they heard, and in that case you wouldn't be familiar with the formula. So mark out of 10. I mean, when you go through the tracks, it's, you know, it's you'd think it's kind of a 7 or an 8 really, but to me it kind of feels like a 6.5. It's a decent record, but really at this point Dio needed, I think bands with their third albums, if they want to maintain their level or they want to push on, they've got to do a corker. Sometimes it's better for bands when they're not as successful on the first two albums, and then there's pressure. A good example is Bon Jovi. The first album was really good, it went gold. The second album didn't take them any further, people criticised it. The third album, we know what happened. Same thing happened with Rat with this, you know, the first album was corking, second album's not quite as good but very good, and then the third one not quite. Dokken delivered a really good, well, it's kind of like third album if you think about when they really, you know, after the whole Breaking the Change remix thing, you know, they delivered their biggest album. So it's just one of those things. I think Dio was caught in the thing, he's caught in that time when there's the big demands on videos and the hair's got to get bigger, which doesn't really suit Dio. A bit of costume and a bit of myth and magic's great, but you know, the glam thing started to eat into the albums or the visuals of bands at the time, you know, happened with Priest, and that became like a cancer that destroyed this kind of music really as a commercially viable thing for a long while. Okay, so that's my review of Sacred Heart. Remember to share and subscribe. I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much.